The rain fell steadily over the city's financial district, droplets racing down the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse office on the 42nd floor. Inside, the air was thick with tension, though the temperature was perfectly regulated at 68 degrees. 6 men in expensive suits sat around a mahogany table, their faces carefully neutral, their hands folded, except for the ones whose fingers drummed nervously against the polished wood. At the head of the table sat Victoria Sinclair, 28 years old, dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, charcoal suit tailored to perfection, eyes the color of smoke, beautiful and cold. She didn't raise her voice. She never needed to. "The shipment arrives Thursday," she said, her tone as measured as a metronome. "I expect 0 complications, 0 delays, 0 excuses." "Yes, ma'am," came the chorus of responses. "James," she turned her gaze to a man in his 50s, whose jaw tightened at the sound of his name. "The last quarter showed a 15% decline in your sector's productivity. Explain." James cleared his throat. "We had some personnel issues. Nothing that can't be—" "I don't want excuses." Victoria's voice didn't rise, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "I want results. You have 2 weeks to correct this discrepancy, or I'll find someone who can." "Understood." She stood, signaling the meeting's end. The men rose quickly, gathering their tablets and leather portfolios. As they filed out, each one avoided meeting her eyes. Only her second-in-command, Sophia Martinez, a sharp woman in her early 40s with calculating eyes, remained behind. "You're losing patience with James," Sophia observed, closing the door. "I lost patience 3 months ago." Victoria walked to the window, staring at the city below. "He's becoming a liability. I can handle it." "I know you can." Victoria's reflection in the glass showed no emotion. "That's why you're still here." Sophia hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "There's something else. The Mitchell situation. They're asking for a meeting. Let them ask." "Victoria, they won't wait forever. If we don't, they'll wait as long as I want them to wait." Victoria turned, and Sophia saw something flicker across her boss's face. Not anger, but exhaustion. Brief. Gone in a second. "Is there anything else?" "Emma's school called. Parent-teacher conference next week." Victoria's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Cancel my Thursday afternoon." "Already done." After Sophia left, Victoria remained at the window. Below, people moved like ants through the rain. Small, insignificant, unaware of the systems that controlled their lives. She'd built her empire carefully, taking over her father's organization after his sudden death 5 years ago. No one had expected her to survive the first month. She was too young, too inexperienced, too female. She'd proven them all wrong. But lately the walls she'd built felt less like protection and more like a prison. 6 hours later, the house was silent when Victoria arrived home. Not peaceful, silent. There was a difference. The brownstone in the Upper East Side was beautiful. Original crown molding, hardwood floors, a chef's kitchen that rarely saw cooking. It was also cold. Not in temperature. The heating worked perfectly. But in feel, in spirit. Victoria set her briefcase by the door and removed her heels, her stockinged feet silent on the floor. She found Emma in the living room, sitting on the couch with a coloring book open in front of her. The 6-year-old didn't look up when her mother entered. "Hi, sweetheart," Victoria said, her voice softer than it had been all day. "How was school?" "Fine." Emma's response was automatic, practiced. She filled in a flower with careful purple strokes. Victoria sat beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. "What are you coloring?" "A garden. It's beautiful." "Thank you." The silence stretched. Victoria watched her daughter color, noticed the way Emma's small shoulders curved inward, the way she kept her eyes fixed on the page. When had this distance grown between them? It felt like a chasm Victoria didn't know how to cross. "Are you hungry?" Victoria asked. Rosa left dinner in the refrigerator. "Not really. You need to eat something." "I had a snack." Another silence. Victoria felt the familiar weight settling over her chest, the sensation that she was failing at something she couldn't quite name. She was successful in every aspect of her life. She controlled millions in assets, commanded respect from dangerous people, made decisions that affected hundreds of lives, but she couldn't make her own daughter smile. "Emma," Victoria began, then stopped. What could she say? How could she explain that she was doing her best? That everything she did, the long hours, the difficult decisions, the walls she maintained, was to protect this small person sitting beside her? Emma finally looked up. Her eyes, the same smoke gray as Victoria's, were serious. Too serious for a 6-year-old. "Can I finish coloring in my room?" "Of course." Victoria watched her daughter gather her supplies and walk away, small feet padding on the hardwood. The coloring book slipped from Emma's grasp, and Victoria bent to pick it up. A drawing on the previous page caught her eye. A house with a single figure standing outside. No sun, no trees, just the house and the small, alone figure. Victoria closed the book and set it on the coffee table. The next evening, "We're going out for dinner," Victoria announced when she arrived home. Emma looked up from her homework, surprise flickering across her face. "Out?" "Yes, just you and me. Get your coat." 20 minutes later, they were driving through the city in Victoria's Mercedes, the darkened windows offering privacy from the world outside. Emma sat in the back seat, properly buckled, watching the city lights blur past. "Where are we going?" Emma asked quietly. "A nice restaurant, Italian. I thought you might like it." "Okay." Victoria glanced in the rearview mirror. Emma's face was unreadable. Not excited, not upset. Just blank. When had her daughter learned to hide her emotions like that? Victoria knew the answer, of course. Children learned by watching. And what had Emma watched? A mother who never smiled, never cried, never showed weakness. A mother who had forgotten how to be anything but strong. The restaurant, Bella Vita, was in a quieter neighborhood, away from the business district. Victoria had chosen it carefully. Upscale, but not ostentatious, with a reputation for privacy. She'd reserved a corner table, away from windows, with a clear view of all entrances. Old habits. The maitre d' recognized her despite it being her first visit. Money had that effect. "Ms. Sinclair, welcome. Your table is ready." They were led through the softly lit dining room, past tables of couples sharing wine, families celebrating birthdays, business associates conducting deals over pasta. The air smelled of garlic, fresh bread, and expensive perfume. A piano played softly in the background, something classical Victoria didn't recognize. Their table was perfect, secluded but not isolated. Emma climbed into her chair and immediately focused on folding her napkin into smaller and smaller squares. "Emma, look at me, please." The girl obeyed, her gray eyes meeting Victoria's. "I know I've been busy lately. I wanted us to have a nice evening together. Just us." Emma nodded. "Okay. You can order anything you want." "Okay." The single-word responses felt like small rejections, though Victoria knew that wasn't Emma's intention. The girl was just mirroring what she'd learned. Keep responses minimal. Don't create problems. Don't ask for too much. Don't need anything. A waiter approached. Not the one Victoria had expected. This man was older, maybe late 30s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. His uniform was crisp but not stiff, and he moved with an easy confidence that suggested he'd been doing this work for years. "Good evening, ladies," he said warmly. "My name is Marcus, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Victoria ordered sparkling water. Emma said nothing. "And for you, young lady?" Marcus asked, crouching slightly so he was at Emma's eye level. "What sounds good?" Emma glanced at Victoria, then back at her napkin. "Water is fine." "Water it is, but—" Marcus leaned in conspiratorially. "Between you and me, they make excellent hot chocolate here, with real whipped cream and little marshmallows. It's not on the kids' menu because technically there is no kids' menu, but the chef makes it special for people who know to ask." Emma's eyes flickered with interest, but she looked at Victoria again. "If you want hot chocolate, you can have hot chocolate," Victoria said. "Okay," Emma whispered. "Yes, please." "Perfect choice," Marcus said, standing. "I'll be right back with your drinks, and then we'll figure out what everyone wants to eat. Take your time with the menu." As he walked away, Victoria noticed Emma watching him. There was something in her daughter's expression, curiosity maybe, or simply the novelty of someone speaking directly to her in that friendly, unhurried way. They studied the menus in silence. Victoria watched Emma's eyes scan the options, knowing the girl could read well enough but probably didn't know what half the dishes were. "Would you like me to explain any of the items?" Victoria asked. "What's ravioli?" "It's pasta, like soft pockets with filling inside, usually cheese or meat. Very good. Can I get that?" "Of course." Marcus returned with their drinks, Victoria's sparkling water and Emma's hot chocolate, which was indeed topped with a mountain of whipped cream and colorful mini marshmallows. Emma's eyes widened slightly. "Now that," Marcus said, setting it down carefully, "is a proper hot chocolate. Have you two decided on dinner?" Victoria ordered the salmon. Emma asked for the ravioli in a voice barely above a whisper. "Excellent choices," Marcus said, writing on his pad. Then he paused, glancing at Emma's coloring book that Victoria had brought from the car at the last minute. "Are you an artist?" Emma shook her head. "No? Well, you've got all the tools of an artist." He gestured to the coloring book and the small box of crayons. "May I?" At Emma's small nod, he opened the book to her garden page. "Wow, look at that purple flower. Perfect color choice. Purple is one of the hardest colors to work with, you know." Emma looked up at him, a tiny crease forming between her eyebrows. It is? Absolutely. It's right between warm and cool colors, so you have to be really careful with it. But you nailed it. He pointed to another flower. And this yellow? Classic choice. Bright, but not too bright. You've got good instincts. For the first time that Victoria could remember in months, Emma smiled. Not a big smile, just a small upturn of her lips, but it was real. Marcus didn't seem to notice anything unusual about it. He simply smiled back, closed the book, and said, "I'll get your order into the chef. If you need anything at all, just wave me down. Enjoy that hot chocolate before it gets cold." As he walked away, Emma picked up her mug carefully, sipping through the whipped cream. A tiny white mustache appeared on her upper lip, and she giggled, before wiping it away with her napkin. The sound hit Victoria like a physical blow. She remembered that laugh. She remembered when Emma used to laugh all the time, as a baby, as a toddler. Belly laughs at peekaboo games, giggles during bedtime stories, shrieks of joy when Victoria would scoop her up and spin her around. When had it stopped? Victoria's hands, resting on the table, began to tremble. She moved them to her lap, gripping her own fingers to stop the shaking. Her chest felt tight, her breathing shallow. She was Victoria Sinclair. She didn't lose control. She didn't fall apart over a child's giggle. But her knees? God, her knees felt weak, and she was grateful she was sitting down. "Mom?" Emma's voice was concerned. "Are you okay?" Victoria forced herself to breathe normally, to smooth her expression. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm fine. I'm just happy you like the hot chocolate." Emma took another sip, and this time she smiled at Victoria. A real smile, small but genuine. And Victoria realized with sudden, crushing clarity that she couldn't remember the last time her daughter had smiled at her. Dinner arrived, and it was delicious, though Victoria barely tasted hers. She watched Emma eat her ravioli, watched the way the girl's guard gradually lowered. Marcus checked on them twice, each time with that same gentle, unhurried energy. He asked Emma questions. What was her favorite color? Did she like school? What was the best book she'd ever read? And he listened to her answers, like they mattered. Emma, who rarely spoke more than necessary, began to open up. She told him about her teacher, Mrs. Henderson, who had a fish tank in the classroom. She mentioned her friend Sarah, though Victoria wasn't sure Emma had ever mentioned Sarah before. She even laughed again when Marcus pretended to not know how to pronounce spaghetti, deliberately messing it up in increasingly ridiculous ways. Spaghetti? Spaghetti? Sketty. Emma dissolved into giggles. It's spaghetti. Oh, spaghetti. Well, why didn't you say so? Victoria watched this interaction, and something inside her chest cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like ice at the end of winter, when the warmth starts seeping in. This stranger, this waiter, had accomplished in 30 minutes what she hadn't been able to do in months. He'd made Emma laugh. He'd made her feel safe enough to be a child. Why couldn't Victoria do that? She knew the answer, of course. The same reason she couldn't do anything without calculating risks, without considering angles, without maintaining control. She'd spent 5 years building walls to protect herself, to survive in a world that would destroy any sign of weakness. But those walls hadn't just kept danger out, they'd kept everything out, including her own daughter. As they finished dessert, tiramisu for Victoria, untouched, and gelato for Emma, devoured, Marcus brought the check in a leather folder. "How was everything?" he asked. "Perfect," Victoria said, and meant it, though not for the reasons he probably thought. "Thank you. My pleasure. And Emma?" He crouched again to her level. "You keep coloring those gardens, okay? Maybe next time you come in, you can show me a new one." Emma nodded eagerly. "Okay, next time." Victoria hadn't planned on a next time, but looking at her daughter's face, animated, happy, alive, she reconsidered. Victoria left cash for the bill and an extremely generous tip, more than the meal itself. As they stood to leave, Emma tugged on Victoria's sleeve. "Mom? Yes? Can we come back?" Victoria looked down at her daughter, at those gray eyes that suddenly held hope instead of resignation. "Yes, we can come back." Emma smiled again, her third smile of the evening, each one more precious than diamonds or corporate victories. They walked to the car through the cool night air. Emma held Victoria's hand, voluntarily, without being asked. Her small fingers were warm in Victoria's palm. In the car, driving home through the glittering city, Victoria glanced in the rearview mirror. Emma was looking out the window, but her posture was different. Relaxed, open. "Did you have a nice time?" Victoria asked. "Yes. Thank you for taking me." "You're welcome, sweetheart." "Mom?" "Yes?" "Marcus was nice." "He was. He talked to me like Mrs. Henderson does. Like I'm a real person." The words were innocent, but they cut deeper than any threat Victoria had ever received. Like I'm a real person. Had Victoria been treating her own daughter as anything less? No. She'd been treating her as something more. As fragile. As something to be protected at all costs. Even from normalcy. Even from connection. Even from happiness. You are a real person, Emma, Victoria said, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. You're the most important person in the world. In the mirror, she saw Emma smile again, softer this time, but no less real. Late that night, Emma was asleep, tucked into her bed with the nightlight glowing softly in the corner. Victoria stood in the doorway, watching her daughter's peaceful face. When Emma slept, the seriousness melted away. She looked like what she was, a little girl. Victoria's phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. Mitchell meeting moved to Friday. James handled the issue. Update tomorrow? Victoria typed back, fine. She should go to her own room, review tomorrow's contracts, prepare for the morning meeting. Instead, she stayed in Emma's doorway, thinking about that laugh, about the way Emma had lit up talking to Marcus, about the fact that a kind stranger had been able to reach her daughter in ways Victoria couldn't. She thought about her own childhood, her father's stern face, her mother's early death, the way she'd learned to survive by becoming harder, colder, more controlled. She'd sworn Emma would have better. She'd sworn her daughter would be protected, safe, free from the dangers that lurked in Victoria's world. But protection wasn't the same as love. Safety wasn't the same as happiness. Victoria had given Emma everything. The best schools, the best clothes, the best security. Everything except the one thing children needed most. A parent who knew how to just be with them. Present. Open. Real. She pulled out her phone again and opened a new note. Typed 4 words. Learn to be present. Then she added, Tuesday dinner, Bella Vita, 7 p.m. It was a small thing, a single dinner reservation. But as Victoria finally turned away from Emma's door and walked to her own room, those trembling knees she'd experienced in the restaurant returned, not from weakness, but from the terrifying, exhilarating realization that something fundamental was shifting. She'd built her entire life on control, on knowing every angle, anticipating every threat, maintaining every boundary. But tonight, a child's laughter had shaken her foundation. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a bad thing. The following day, Victoria sat in her office, staring at spreadsheets that should have had her full attention. Instead, her mind kept drifting back to the restaurant, to Marcus, the gentle waiter who'd asked about colors and books like they mattered, who'd made Emma feel seen. Sophia entered without knocking, her expression curious. You're distracted. I'm thinking. About? Victoria hesitated. Sophia was her right hand, someone she trusted with her business life. But this wasn't business. This was something else. Nothing important. What do you have for me? Sophia set down a folder but didn't leave. Victoria? I've known you for 7 years. You're never distracted by nothing important. What's going on? For a moment, Victoria considered confiding in her. But what would she say? That a waiter had made her daughter laugh and it had shaken her entire worldview? That she was questioning everything about how she'd been living her life? I took Emma to dinner last night, she said finally. That's good. She laughed, Sophia. Really laughed. I haven't heard that sound in so long I'd almost forgotten what it sounded like. Sophia's expression softened slightly. A rare occurrence. Kids need that. I know, Victoria turned to the window. I don't know how to give it to her. I don't know how to be the person she needs. Maybe you're overthinking it. Maybe. But Victoria knew it wasn't that simple. Being a mother required something she'd trained herself not to have. Vulnerability. Openness. The ability to exist without armor. She'd been the queen for so long, she'd forgotten how to be just Victoria. Just mom. We're going back Tuesday, she said. To the restaurant. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Is that wise? Establishing patterns, routines. I know the risks. Do you? Because predictability is... I said I know. Victoria's voice was sharp, then softened. I know, Sophia. But I also know that Emma smiled last night. 3 times. And I know that matters more than anything else. Sophia studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. I'll adjust security protocols. We'll keep it quiet. Minimal presence. Thank you. After Sophia left, Victoria returned to the window. Below, people moved through their lives, rushing to meetings, grabbing coffee, checking phones. Normal people with normal problems. She'd never be normal. Her life, her choices, had ensured that. But maybe, just maybe, she could create small pockets of normal for Emma. Moments where the weight of Victoria's world didn't press down on her daughter's small shoulders. Moments of laughter, of hot chocolate with whipped cream, of feeling like a real person. Victoria's phone buzzed. Another crisis. Another decision required. She picked it up, read the message, and began typing her response. But part of her mind stayed in that restaurant, at that corner table, listening to a sound she'd thought she'd lost forever. Her daughter's laugh, and the man who'd made it possible without even trying. Tuesday evening, 1 week later, Victoria sat in her office watching the clock. 6:15. She had 45 minutes before the reservation at Bella Vita. The stack of contracts on her desk demanded attention, but her mind was elsewhere. Emma had been different all week. Not dramatically. Victoria's daughter was still quiet, still careful. But there were small changes. She'd asked about dinner plans every single day. She'd drawn a picture of a restaurant table with 3 stick figures. She'd even hummed while doing homework, a soft, unconscious melody that made Victoria's chest ache, all because of one evening, one dinner, one kind waiter. "You're doing it again," Sophia said from the doorway. Victoria looked up. "Doing what?" "Staring at nothing, thinking about things that aren't business." Sophia entered and closed the door behind her. "This restaurant thing? Are you sure it's a good idea?" "We've been through this." "I know, but Victoria, establishing a weekly routine in a public place?" Sophia sat across from her. "It creates opportunities for people who might want to create problems. I've taken precautions." "I know you have. I helped arrange them." Sophia leaned forward. "But I also know you. You're not just doing this for Emma anymore, are you?" Victoria's eyes sharpened. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm observing. You're different lately. Distracted. Last week you let the Carmichael negotiation drag 2 days longer than necessary. That's not like you. The outcome was favorable. That's not the point." Sophia's expression was unreadable. "I'm not criticizing. I'm just noticing. Whatever is happening, make sure you're still seeing clearly." After Sophia left, Victoria gathered her things slowly. Her second-in-command was right, of course. Victoria had been distracted, but it wasn't just about Emma's happiness anymore, though that remained the priority. It was about that moment in the restaurant, that crack in her carefully constructed armor. For 5 years, Victoria had been nothing but the queen, efficient, cold, untouchable. And in 5 years, she'd lost pieces of herself she hadn't even realized were missing until she heard Emma laugh, until she saw what kindness looked like through a stranger's eyes. Bella Vita, 7 p.m. The restaurant looked exactly as it had the week before. Warm lighting, soft piano music, the smell of garlic and fresh bread. Victoria and Emma were led to the same corner table. Emma practically bounced in her seat, the most animated Victoria had seen her in months. "Do you think Marcus will be working tonight?" Emma asked, her voice eager. "I don't know, sweetheart. There are other waiters here too." Emma's face fell slightly, and Victoria felt an irrational surge of hope that Marcus would be there. Not for herself, she told herself, for Emma. But when Marcus appeared from the kitchen, his face lighting up with recognition, Victoria felt her own shoulders relax in a way that had nothing to do with her daughter. "Well, hello again." Marcus approached their table with that same easy smile. "I was hoping you two would come back. How have you been, Emma?" Emma smiled, immediately, genuinely. "Good. I finished my garden picture, and I started a new one with butterflies." "Butterflies? That's ambitious. Those wings are tricky." Marcus pulled out his order pad. "Same drinks as last time? Hot chocolate with the works?" "Yes, please." "And sparkling water for you, ma'am?" "Please." "And Marcus?" Victoria hesitated, then continued. "Thank you. For last week." Emma hasn't stopped talking about it. Something in Marcus's expression softened. "That's nice to hear. Every kid deserves to feel special." He glanced at Emma. "And between you and me, she makes my job easy. Best customer I've had all week." After he left to get their drinks, Emma leaned forward conspiratorially. "Mom, can I show him my butterfly picture? I'm sure he'd like that." Emma pulled out her coloring book, flipping to the new page with careful fingers. Victoria watched her daughter's face, so open, so hopeful. When had Emma lost that openness? When had she learned to guard herself? Victoria knew the answer, though she didn't want to acknowledge it. Children learned by watching, and Emma had watched her mother become more distant, more closed off, more focused on protection than connection. Marcus returned with their drinks, and Emma immediately held up her coloring book. "Look, I did butterflies." Marcus set down the glasses and leaned in to examine the page. "Wow, Emma, these are incredible. Look at all those different colors. You used, 6 different colors just for the wings?" 7, Emma corrected proudly. "I used orange and red and yellow and pink and purple and blue and green. 7 colors. That's a rainbow butterfly." Marcus pointed to one particularly detailed butterfly. "And you even did the little patterns on the wings. That takes real patience. How long did this take you?" 3 days. I worked on it every day after school. 3 days of focused work. You know what that makes you? An artist. A real one. Emma beamed. Victoria watched this interaction, this simple exchange of genuine interest and innocent pride, and felt that crack in her chest widen. This was what children needed. Adults who paid attention, who cared about their 7-colored butterflies, who made them feel like their efforts mattered. Why couldn't she be that person for Emma? As they ordered dinner, Emma chose fettuccine Alfredo this time. Victoria found herself watching Marcus more carefully. He was probably late 30s with kind eyes and smile lines that suggested he laughed often. His uniform was neat but not expensive. He moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd spent years in service work. There was something calming about him, something safe. The thought surprised her. Victoria Sinclair didn't think about safety in terms of comfort. Safety meant security protocols, background checks, controlled environments. But with Marcus, safety felt different. It felt like trust. That should have alarmed her. Instead, it intrigued her. Over the next 45 minutes as they ate dinner, Marcus checked on them 3 times. Each time he asked Emma questions about school, about her favorite colors, about what other pictures she wanted to draw. He never talked down to her, never dismissed her answers as childish. And each time, Emma opened up a little more. Mrs. Henderson says we're going to do a project about animals, Emma told him during his second check-in. I want to do butterflies. Perfect choice. Did you know there are over 20,000 species of butterflies in the world? Emma's eyes widened. 20,000? At least. And they're all different colors, different sizes. Some are tiny, like the size of your fingernail. Others have wingspans as wide as your coloring book. Wow. Yeah, nature's pretty amazing. Marcus smiled at Victoria. How's your salmon? Excellent, thank you. Good, I'll check back in a bit to see about dessert. As he walked away, Emma watched him go, then turned to Victoria. Mom, do you think Marcus could be my friend? The question hit Victoria with unexpected force. Your friend? Yeah, not just the waiter, but someone I could talk to, like Sarah at school. Victoria chose her words carefully. Marcus is a very nice man, but sweetheart, he's an adult. He works here. It's a little different than having friends at school. But he talks to me like I'm important. Like what I say matters. What you say does matter. Always. Emma studied her mother's face for a long moment, and Victoria saw something shift in those gray eyes. Something that looked uncomfortably like doubt, as if Emma wasn't sure whether to believe her, and why should she believe? Victoria had spent months being physically present but emotionally distant. Available but unavailable. There, but not really there. I like coming here, Emma said finally. Can we come back again next week? Yes. We can make it a regular thing if you want. Really? Really. Emma's smile was worth every security risk, every complication, every concern Sophia had raised. 8:45 p.m. The restaurant had grown quieter as the evening progressed. Many tables had cleared out, leaving only a handful of diners lingering over coffee and dessert. Emma had finished her tiramisu and was now coloring at the table, adding details to her butterfly garden while Victoria sipped espresso. Marcus approached with the check. How was everything tonight? Perfect, Victoria said. Thank you for being so kind to Emma. It means more than you probably realize. Marcus glanced at Emma, who was absorbed in her coloring, then back at Victoria. His expression was gentle but curious. She's a sweet kid. Smart, too. You're doing a good job with her. The comment should have pleased Victoria. Instead, it made her throat tight. If only he knew how much she was failing. How many nights Emma went to bed early because Victoria had evening meetings. How many school events Victoria missed because of business emergencies. How many times Emma had asked for something, time, attention, presence, and Victoria had been too busy, too stressed, too focused on keeping the organization running. I'm trying, Victoria said quietly. Something in her tone made Marcus pause. He glanced around the nearly empty restaurant, then pulled out the chair across from her, something he definitely wasn't supposed to do. May I sit for just a minute? My feet are dying. Victoria should have said no, should have maintained the boundary between server and customer, but she found herself nodding. Marcus sat with a grateful sigh. Sorry. Long day. We had a party of 20 for lunch and they all wanted separate checks. Nightmare. I can imagine. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Emma continued coloring, occasionally humming that same soft melody. The piano player in the corner had switched to something jazzy and understated. Can I ask you something? Marcus said. And you can tell me it's none of my business. Victoria's guard went up immediately. What? Is Emma okay? I don't mean physically, I mean, she seems like she's carrying something heavy. For a 6-year-old. Victoria's first instinct was to deflect, to shut down the conversation. But looking at Marcus's face, genuinely concerned, No judgment, just honest care. She found herself speaking truthfully. She's been through a lot. We both have. It's been a difficult few years. I'm sorry to hear that. Her father isn't in the picture. Hasn't been for a while. And my work is demanding. Very demanding. I try to balance it all, but Victoria trailed off, unsure how to finish that sentence without revealing too much. Marcus nodded slowly. I get it. Single parenting is impossible. You're trying to be everything, provider, protector, parent, but you're just one person. You sound like you're speaking from experience. I am. Marcus's smile turned sad. I have a daughter, Lily, she's 8, lives with my ex-wife in Connecticut. I see her 2 weekends a month and half the summer. That must be difficult. It's torture, Marcus admitted quietly, but it's what's best for her. My ex remarried a good guy, stable job, big house. They can give Lily things I can't. Consistency, security, a real home. But you're her father. Yeah, and I'll always be her father. But being a dad is more than biology. It's about showing up, being present, and when I can only give her 4 days a month, he shook his head. Anyway, that's why I like working with kids. Makes me feel a little closer to Lily, I guess. Victoria felt something shift in her understanding of this man. He wasn't just a kind waiter. He was someone who understood loss, who understood the impossible choices parents sometimes had to make. Is that why you're so good with Emma? She asked. Maybe. Or maybe Emma just makes it easy. Marcus looked at the little girl, still absorbed in her art. She reminds me of Lily at that age. Quiet, watchful, like she's trying to figure out how the world works before she fully steps into it. That's exactly what she's doing, Victoria said softly. Well, for what it's worth, I think you're doing better than you give yourself credit for. Emma's polite, creative, obviously smart. Those things come from somewhere, from someone. Victoria wanted to argue, to list all the ways she was failing, but Marcus stood before she could respond, groaning slightly as his knees protested. I should get back to work before my manager notices I'm sitting down on the job, he smiled. But seriously, you two are welcome here anytime. And Emma? He raised his voice slightly. Keep working on those butterflies. I want to see the whole garden next time. Emma looked up and nodded eagerly. Okay, I will. After Marcus walked away, Emma returned to her coloring. But Victoria sat frozen, coffee growing cold in her cup, thinking about everything Marcus had said. He understood. He understood the weight of impossible choices, the guilt of not being enough, the desperate hope that somehow, despite everything, your child would turn out okay. For 5 years, Victoria had felt completely alone in her struggles. Yes, she had Sophia and her organization. Yes, she had resources and power. But emotionally, she'd been isolated, convinced that no one could understand the particular hell of her situation. But Marcus had understood. Not the specifics. He couldn't possibly know about her real life, the dangerous world she navigated daily. But the core of it, loving someone desperately while feeling like you're failing them. It was dangerous, this feeling of connection. Victoria knew that. She should pay the bill, leave, never come back. Establishing routines, forming bonds, these things created vulnerabilities. But looking at Emma, happily coloring with a small smile on her face, Victoria couldn't bring herself to care about the risk. Not tonight. 9:30 p.m., parking lot. Victoria held Emma's hand as they walked to the car. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of rain on pavement. Emma chattered about her butterfly project, about what colors she'd use next, about how Marcus had said she was a real artist. Victoria listened, truly listened, and responded with genuine interest. It felt awkward at first. She was so out of practice with casual conversation, but Emma didn't seem to notice. She was just happy to have her mother's attention. As they reached the Mercedes, Victoria noticed a black sedan parked 3 spaces down, tinted windows, engine running. A prickle of awareness went down her spine, the same instinct that had kept her alive in dangerous situations for years. She unlocked the car quickly, got Emma settled in the back seat, and glanced casually at the sedan as she walked around to the driver's side. The windows were too dark to see inside, but she caught the faint glow of a phone screen in the front seat. Someone watching? Someone waiting. Victoria got in the car and pulled out of the parking lot, checking her mirrors constantly. The sedan didn't follow. After 5 minutes, she allowed herself to relax slightly. Probably nothing. Could have been anyone. Another customer, someone waiting for a takeout order. But the queen inside her whispered, no such thing as coincidence. 10:15 p.m. Home after Emma was tucked into bed, still talking about butterflies and next week's dinner, Victoria went to her office and called Sophia. Did you have someone watching the restaurant tonight? Of course, 2 teams. They reported nothing unusual. Black sedan in the parking lot. Tinted windows. Engine running. Sophia was quiet for a moment. What time? 9:30. I'll check the footage, run the plates. But Victoria, it could have been… I know, could have been nothing. But check anyway. Always do. After hanging up, Victoria poured herself a scotch and stood at the window of her study, looking out at the city. She thought about Marcus's question. Is Emma okay? The answer was complicated. Emma was safe, the most protected 6-year-old in the city. She had the best education, the best health care, everything money could provide. But was she okay? Happy? Thriving? Not until last week. Not until a kind waiter asked about her coloring and made her feel seen. Victoria sipped her scotch and made a decision. She would continue the Tuesday dinners, would accept the small risk for the larger reward of Emma's happiness. But she'd also be more careful, more vigilant. Because the thing about cracks in armor was that they let light in, but they also created weak points. And in Victoria's world, weak points could be dangerous. Very dangerous indeed. 2 weeks later, the Tuesday dinners became a routine. Victoria cleared her schedule every week. Emma counted down the days like Christmas, and Marcus became a fixture in their lives. Always warm, always interested, always making Emma laugh. But Victoria noticed things. Marcus started looking at her differently. Not romantically, at least she didn't think so. More like he was trying to solve a puzzle. He'd ask casual questions. What do you do for work? Where do you live? What does Emma like to do on weekends? Victoria answered vaguely. Business consulting, Upper East Side. She likes to draw. True statements, all of them, just missing 90% of the context. She also noticed him noticing things, the way she always sat facing the door, how she tracked people's movements around the restaurant, the fact that she never looked at her phone during dinner but checked it obsessively the moment Emma went to the bathroom. One evening, as Marcus brought their check, he said quietly, "You know, I've worked here for 3 years. I'm pretty good at reading people. It's part of the job." Victoria's guard went up. "Oh? Yeah. And I've noticed something about you." "What's that?" "You're always watching, always aware, like you're expecting trouble." He paused. "Are you expecting trouble?" Victoria forced herself to smile. "Just cautious. Single mother in the city. You understand." "Sure." But his eyes said he didn't quite believe her. "Well, if you ever need anything, if Emma ever needs anything, this is a safe place. Okay?" The kindness in his voice made Victoria's throat tight. "Thank you." But as they left that night, Victoria made a note to herself. He's getting too curious. Need to be more careful. 3 weeks after first visit. It was their 4th Tuesday dinner. Emma was telling Marcus about her butterfly project. She'd gotten an A+ and the teacher had hung it on the wall. Marcus high-fived her and brought her a special dessert. Gelato with a butterfly-shaped cookie on top. "Chef made it special for you," he said. "For the artist." Emma was so happy she actually teared up. Victoria excused herself to the bathroom, needing a moment to collect herself. The emotions were overwhelming lately. Emma's happiness, her own growing… what? Attachment? Gratitude? She wasn't sure what to call it. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. The woman looking back seemed different somehow. Softer. More vulnerable. More human. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. "Emergency, factory issue. Need you now." Victoria's jaw clenched. No, not tonight. Not during Emma's dinner. But even as she thought it, she knew she had no choice. The organization didn't stop for Tuesday dinners. Problems didn't wait for convenient times. She texted back, 20 minutes. When she returned to the table, Emma was showing Marcus a drawing she'd done on her napkin. A butterfly, of course. Marcus was praising the wing details. "Emma, sweetheart," Victoria said gently. "I'm sorry, but we need to go. Something came up with work." Emma's face fell. "But we haven't had dessert yet." "I know, I'm sorry. We'll come back next week, I promise." "But Mom…" "Emma, we need to go now." The sharpness in Victoria's tone made Emma flinch. That familiar, closed-off expression returned to her daughter's face. The walls going back up. Marcus watched this exchange, his expression unreadable. "How about I box up that gelato to go? Emma can have it at home." "That would be kind, thank you," Victoria said stiffly. As Marcus hurried to the kitchen, Victoria gathered their things, avoiding Emma's hurt gaze. She hated this. Hated being pulled between her two worlds. Hated disappointing her daughter. But what choice did she have? Marcus returned with the gelato in a container, along with the butterfly cookie wrapped separately. "There you go, Emma. Enjoy it later." "Thank you," Emma whispered. As they stood to leave, Victoria pulled out cash for the bill. More than necessary, as always. But as she set it down, she noticed her hand was shaking slightly. Marcus noticed, too. His eyes dropped to her hand, then back to her face. Something shifted in his expression. Concern, confusion, maybe fear. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. I'm fine. Just a stressful day. Victoria managed a smile. Thank you for everything. Of course. Drive safe. But as Victoria led Emma toward the door, she felt Marcus's eyes on her back, felt his confusion, his growing suspicion that something wasn't right. She should stop coming here, should protect this simple, kind man from the complications of her life. But when Emma looked up at her with those sad gray eyes, Victoria knew she wouldn't. Because despite the risks, despite the complications, these Tuesday dinners were the only time either of them felt normal. And normal was worth protecting, even if it meant exposing it to danger. In the car, Emma was silent during the drive, staring out the window. Victoria glanced at her in the rearview mirror. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know you wanted to stay longer. No response. Sometimes work requires immediate attention. I wish it didn't, but you always say that. Emma's voice was small but sharp. You always say work is important. But what about me? Am I important? The question stabbed through Victoria's chest. Of course you're important. You're the most important thing in my life. Then why do you always leave? I don't always leave. You do. Emma's eyes, reflected in the mirror, were bright with unshed tears. You did tonight, and you'll do it again, because work is more important than ice cream, more important than butterflies, more important than me. Emma, that's not... Just forget it. Emma turned away, facing the window. Victoria drove in silence, her daughter's words echoing in her mind. More important than me. That wasn't true. Everything Victoria did was for Emma, to provide for her, protect her, ensure her future. But how could she explain that to a 6-year-old? How could she make Emma understand that the very things that took Victoria away were the same things that kept Emma safe? She couldn't. So she just drove, watching her daughter's small reflection in the mirror, and wondered how much longer she could maintain this impossible balance. Behind them, 3 cars back, a black sedan with tinted windows followed at a careful distance. Victoria noticed, but for once she was too tired to care. Victoria rarely allowed spontaneity. Every outing was planned, every route calculated, every risk assessed. But Emma had been so withdrawn since the interrupted dinner 2 weeks ago that when her daughter asked to go to the park on Saturday, Victoria found herself saying yes. Really? Emma's eyes had widened with surprise. We can go? Yes. Pack your coloring supplies. We'll find a nice bench. Now they sat under an oak tree, Emma on a blanket with her coloring book, Victoria on a nearby bench with her tablet, ostensibly reading the news, actually monitoring security updates. 2 of her people were positioned around the park, dressed casually, blending in with joggers and dog walkers. Everything was under control. Emma hummed as she colored, that soft melody she'd started singing after their first dinner at Bella Vita. The sound made Victoria's chest tight with a mixture of joy and guilt. Her daughter was happy, but it had taken a stranger's kindness to unlock that happiness. Mom, look! Emma held up her drawing, a butterfly with rainbow wings. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Can we go back to the restaurant this week? I want to show Marcus. Victoria hesitated. They'd missed last Tuesday because of Emma's cold, and the Tuesday before that had ended badly. Part of Victoria wanted to stop going altogether. Marcus was becoming too observant, asking too many questions. But the hope in Emma's eyes made refusing impossible. Yes, we can go Tuesday. Emma's smile was worth every risk. Victoria noticed them first. 2 men approaching from different directions. Not her security team. Wrong body language. Too focused. Too purposeful. Her hand moved instinctively toward her phone. Then she saw the 3rd man, coming from behind, closing the triangle. Emma, Victoria said calmly, standing. Come here, now. Something in her mother's tone made Emma obey immediately, abandoning her coloring. Victoria pulled her daughter close, positioning herself between Emma and the approaching men. Where was her security? She scanned the park, saw one of her people moving fast, phone to his ear. Too far away. The other was blocked by a crowd near the playground. The men were 20 feet away. 15. Victoria's mind calculated options at lightning speed. She could run, but they'd catch them. She could fight, but not while protecting Emma. She could scream, but in the chaos that followed, Victoria Sinclair? The lead man's voice was calm, professional. We just want to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Mr. Castellano thinks differently. Castellano. A rival organization. Someone who'd been trying to move into her territory for months. This wasn't random. This was planned. 10 feet. Emma whimpered, pressing against Victoria's legs. Victoria's hand found her daughter's head, holding her close while her mind raced through scenarios, each one worse than the last. Then a voice cut through the tension. Hey, Emma! Everyone turned. Marcus was jogging toward them across the grass, waving, his face bright with a friendly smile. He wore jeans and a casual jacket, looking completely out of place in this dangerous moment. What was he doing here? I thought that was you. Marcus reached them, slightly out of breath. He nodded politely to the three men, then crouched to Emma's level. Fancy meeting you at the park. What are you coloring? Emma, confused and frightened, didn't answer. Marcus seemed to notice the tension for the first time. He straightened, his smile fading, looking between Victoria's rigid posture and the three men. Is everything okay here? The lead man studied Marcus with cold calculation. This is a private conversation. Didn't look like much of a conversation from where I was standing. Marcus's voice was still friendly, but something had changed in his eyes. Looked more like three grown men surrounding a woman and a child, which seems pretty inappropriate to me. Marcus, please go, Victoria said quietly. No offense, but I don't think I will. Marcus pulled out his phone. In fact, I'm thinking maybe I should call. That won't be necessary. The lead man's gaze shifted between Marcus and Victoria, recalculating. A public scene wasn't part of their plan. Neither was a witness who'd already pulled out his phone. Ms. Sinclair, Mr. Castellano would appreciate a meeting. Soon. You have his contact information. The three men withdrew, walking casually as if nothing had happened. But Victoria saw the way they glanced back, memorizing faces, already reporting to whoever sent them. Her security finally arrived, faces tight with controlled panic. Victoria waved them back with a subtle gesture. The moment was over. She turned to Marcus, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Concern mixed with confusion and something else. Fear, maybe. Thank you, Victoria said stiffly. But you shouldn't have interfered. Interfered? Those guys were… Marcus stopped, glancing down at Emma, who was clinging to Victoria's hand. He lowered his voice. What was that about? A misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Marcus repeated the words slowly, skeptically. Right. That's why you look like you just saw your life flash before your eyes. Marcus, I appreciate your concern, but this doesn't involve you. The hell it doesn't. He caught himself, softened his tone. Sorry, but Emma was scared. You were scared. And those men, I've worked in restaurants for 15 years. I know the difference between legitimate business people and the other kind. Victoria's blood ran cold. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm observing. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely distressed. Look, I don't know what's going on in your life, and maybe I don't want to know, but I care about Emma. And right now, I'm worried about both of you. We're fine. You're not fine. You're terrified. The accuracy of that statement made Victoria's defenses flare. You need to leave. Now. And forget this happened. Can't do that. Marcus? No. His voice was firm. I've spent the last month watching Emma light up every Tuesday, watching her smile and laugh and act like a normal kid for 1 hour a week. And I've watched you try so hard to be present for her while clearly dealing with something heavy, something dangerous. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe not. But I know that whatever just happened, it wasn't a misunderstanding. Those men weren't asking directions. Marcus crouched again, meeting Emma's eyes. Hey, butterfly girl, you okay? Emma nodded, but tears were streaming down her face. It's okay to be scared. That was scary. Marcus looked up at Victoria. Can we at least get her somewhere safe? Somewhere we can talk? Victoria wanted to refuse, wanted to put Emma in the car and drive away and never see Marcus again. Keep him separate from this world. Keep him safe. But Emma was crying, and Marcus was right. They needed to go somewhere secure, somewhere Victoria could think. There's a cafe 2 blocks from here, she said finally. Follow me. The cafe, 4:15 p.m. Victoria chose a table in the back corner, away from windows. Her security team was outside, positioned strategically. Emma sat between Victoria and Marcus, sipping hot chocolate Marcus had ordered for her coloring book open but untouched. Marcus waited until Emma seemed calmer, then spoke quietly. I'm not trying to pry into your business, but Emma's safety matters to me. So if there's something you need to tell me, something that might help me understand, I'm listening. Victoria studied him carefully. His concern was genuine. His care for Emma was real. But telling him the truth meant exposing him to danger, meant pulling him into a world he couldn't understand. My work is complicated, she said finally. And sometimes it involves complicated people. Complicated how? The kind of complicated that makes it dangerous to ask questions. Marcus absorbed this, his expression grave. And Emma? Is she in danger? I protect my daughter. That's my priority, always. I believe you, but today was an anomaly. It won't happen again. You can't promise that. Marcus leaned forward. Victoria, I don't know you well, but I know Emma, and I know that kid deserves to feel safe, to not have to worry about strange men approaching her in parks, which is exactly why you need to stay away from us. The words came out harsher than Victoria intended. Whatever you think you saw today, forget it. Don't come to the park. Don't. She paused, hating what she was about to say. Don't expect us at the restaurant anymore. Emma's head snapped up. What? No. Mom, no. Emma, it's not safe. You promised. Emma's voice cracked. You promised we could go back. You promised I could show Marcus my new drawings. Sweetheart, I'm sorry, but you always do this. Emma stood up, her small body shaking. You always take things away. First Daddy left, then Grandma died. Then you're always at work, and now you're taking away Marcus too. Emma, that's not fair. I don't care if it's fair. I just want something normal. I just want to have dinner and talk about butterflies and be happy. Tears streamed down Emma's face. Why can't I just be happy? The question hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. Victoria felt like she'd been punched. Every word was true. She'd built a fortress around Emma, but fortresses were prisons by another name. Marcus was silent, watching this exchange with pained eyes. When Victoria couldn't find words, he spoke. Emma, your mom is trying to protect you. That's what parents do. But I don't want to be protected, Emma sobbed. I want to be normal. I know, butterfly girl, I know. Marcus looked at Victoria, and in his gaze she saw understanding and challenge. But maybe there's a way to be both, protected and normal. There isn't, Victoria said flatly. Not in my world. Then maybe your world needs to change. The words were simple, but they struck Victoria like lightning. Change her world? Impossible. She'd built this empire, this structure, this life of careful control. Changing it would mean vulnerability, exposure, risk. But looking at Emma's tear-stained face, Victoria realized she was already exposed, already vulnerable. The fortress hadn't protected her daughter from pain. It had caused it. I can't leave my work, Victoria said quietly. It's not that simple. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking you to let someone in. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. I've lost one daughter to distance. I see her 4 days a month and it's killing me. So when I say I care about Emma, I mean it. Whatever complicated situation you're in, whatever dangerous work you do, I'm not running. I'm not leaving her. Not unless you make me. Victoria stared at him. This man who should be terrified, who should want nothing to do with her world, was offering, what? Support? Friendship? Protection? You don't know what you're saying, she whispered. Maybe not. But I know that kid, he gestured to Emma, needs more than just safety. She needs connection, consistency, someone who shows up. I show up. You do, but you're always half present, always watching the door, checking your phone, waiting for the next emergency. Marcus paused. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, Emma needs someone who's all there. And maybe you do too. The vulnerability in his words cracked something deep in Victoria's chest. When was the last time someone had seen her? Not the queen, not the businesswoman, not the dangerous woman in the expensive suit. Just Victoria. Just a tired mother trying to hold everything together. If you stay, Victoria said slowly, you're choosing to be part of something you don't understand. Something that could hurt you. I'm already part of it. Was the moment I made Emma laugh that first night? Marcus smiled sadly. Besides, I've already lost everything that mattered once. What's a little danger compared to that? Emma was watching them both, hope and fear warring in her small face. Victoria looked at her daughter and made a decision that went against every instinct, every rule, every wall she'd ever built. Tuesday, she said. 7 p.m., same table. Emma's face transformed. Really? Really? But Marcus... Victoria turned to him, her voice hard. If you're going to be part of our lives, you need to understand that there are things I can't explain, things I can't share, and there will be moments when I need you to trust me without question. I can do that. Can you? Because today was nothing. Today was a conversation. There are worse things in my world. Much worse. Marcus held her gaze steadily. I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who works in a restaurant. But I've been through a divorce, bankruptcy, and losing custody of my kid. I know what worse looks like. And I know that sometimes the only way through worse is together. Victoria wanted to argue, to list all the reasons this was a terrible idea. But Emma was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since the park, and Victoria realized that maybe Marcus was right. Maybe it was time to stop fighting alone. Tuesday, she repeated. Don't be late, Marcus smiled. Wouldn't dream of it. Later, that night, after Emma was asleep, Victoria stood at her office window, phone pressed to her ear. I want surveillance on Marcus Chen, she told Sophia. Background check, financial records, everything. The waiter? Victoria, what happened? He got involved, saw something he shouldn't have. But Emma, Victoria paused. He's important to Emma. So we protect him. By spying on him? By making sure he's who he says he is. And by ensuring Castellano and anyone else knows he's under my protection. Sophia was quiet for a moment. You're letting people in. That's dangerous. I know. But you're doing it anyway. Yes. Because of Emma? Victoria thought about Marcus's words. About Emma's tears. About the realization that safety wasn't the same as happiness. Because maybe, Victoria said softly, it's time to remember what I'm protecting her for. Not just survival, but life. Real life. That's very philosophical for someone who nearly had their daughter taken today. The words stung because they were true, but Victoria stood firm. Run the background check. Arrange security. And Sophia? Yes? Thank you for everything. After hanging up, Victoria walked to Emma's room. Her daughter slept peacefully, clutching her butterfly coloring book. Victoria sat on the edge of the bed, brushing hair from Emma's forehead. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry I've been so scared of losing you that I forgot to let you live. Emma stirred but didn't wake. Victoria sat there for a long time, watching her daughter breathe, and thought about walls. She'd built them so high, so strong, impenetrable. But walls that kept everything out also kept everything in. Maybe it was time to build a door instead. Victoria watched Emma and Marcus laughing over origami napkins. The restaurant felt different now. Warmer, safer. Not because the dangers had disappeared, but because she'd learned to live despite them. Sophia had handled the Castellano situation. Marcus knew enough. Not everything, but enough. He understood Victoria's world required discretion, protection, distance from certain truths, and he stayed anyway. Mom, look! Emma held up a paper crane. Marcus taught me. Victoria smiled. A real smile that no longer felt foreign. It's perfect, sweetheart. Marcus caught her eye and something passed between them. Not romance. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But understanding. Partnership. Two people protecting the same precious thing. After dinner, walking to the car, Emma held both their hands. Can Marcus come to my school play next week? Victoria glanced at Marcus, who waited for her answer. She thought about walls, about fortresses, about the difference between safety and happiness. Yes, she said. He can come. Emma squeezed their hands, and Victoria realized she hadn't fallen to her knees in months. The sound of her daughter's laughter no longer shocked her. It had become home.